Hello, beautiful people, on this rainy day. I want to give homage and a shout out and some respect to my father. My dad was a single father for a very, very long time. Without getting into too much about him and my mother's relationship, it was dysfunctional and tumultuous, to say the least. I went back and forth between my mom and dad until I was about 10 years old. And when I turned 10, my dad got my sister and my sister was 5. He got us both at that time permanently. And we went to live with my father and my grandmother. So they are who raised us for the most part. Although we still stayed in contact with our mom. She wasn't very far. But like I said, this is to shed some light on my single father. My parents stayed married until the day my father died in August of 2018. They remained married. They were just separated. They were separated. They both had children with other people. They were still married to each other. So I'm going to leave that there. But as far as my father is concerned, I had so much respect for him. Of course, growing up and as a teenager, I wanted to do what I wanted to do. I think I knew it all, and we all do. But he always had our best interests at heart. I never ever doubted him not having our best interests at heart. Never. He worked very hard. My father had lupus, and you could tell at times that he should not have been working, but he had to do what he had to do to make things happen and to take care of his children. So altogether, my dad has 4 girls, 2 with my mom and 2 with another woman, my sister's mom. So yeah, like I said, I have so much respect for my father. I loved him very much. He was not an affectionate person at all, but I never doubted that he loved us because he showed us that he loved us. He took care of us. He protected us. He guided us. And yeah, that's really how I feel. So I just wanted to give some respect to my dad, because I never really hear a whole lot of shout outs or love given to single fathers, because you don't really hear about single fathers that much. You hear about single moms a lot, of which I was for a very long period of time. But my father instilled in us so much strength. He was a Marine, so so there's that aspect of that, the discipline, the regimen, and the sternness, which came in handy. It has its pros and its cons, okay? But overall, I would say that I do not know where my sister and I would be had my father not gotten us as children. As far as my mom is concerned, she has, whatever she has going on. But with that being said, I don't think we would have turned out the way that we did had my father not gotten us permanently. I don't know if the way that we think would have been the same. If our thinking would have still been the same, we'd still end up being the people that we are, I guess, to some degree. But if our mindset was different and we had stayed in such an unstable environment, I don't think we'd be where we are today. But yeah, I had a lot of respect for my father. He was a man of order. He wanted to have things in order, and he was a very, very quiet man. He didn't talk much at all unless it was something he was really passionate about. But he loved his children. He loved his grandchildren. He would literally give you his last. He really, really would. I have remembered times that he has given his last, And I'm not going to sit here and say he was a perfect man. He was not a perfect husband. He was not a perfect father, but he was a great father. He was a really good father. And a lot of that has made my sisters and I really strong women. Even to the point that I've recognized at times that I am really hard on men. And I had to think about that. I'm like, why sometimes I don't want to deal with it. I can't tolerate it. And I'm not going to tolerate it. And a lot of people think it's because, oh, you're masculine. And that may be the truth. But a lot of it has to do with the fact that I was raised by my father. And he was a no-nonsense man. He could do everything. And he did everything. He took care of us. No questions asked. He did what he needed to do. He could fix anything. When we called him, he was there. So if I ever came across a man that could not do those things, I had a really deep disdain, like I just couldn't deal with it. I'm like, okay, you're a man, but you can't do these things. You can't do these basic things that my father did and can do for me. You're a man and you want to be with me, but you can't do these things. So when you can't do these things, I have to call my father. So, that's just how I feel about that. And that's something that I recognize, that when men got under my skin, I like, what is your purpose here? And with that, I'm going to say that my father instilled that in us. And I don't think it was necessarily a bad thing. It just gave us standards. It gave us standards. Now, I definitely have gone down the wrong path with a couple men, and I stayed in situations way longer than I should have. But eventually I came back to my upbringing, to my the way I was raised and how I was treated. And eventually I got myself up out of those situations. So this is a video to show respect and honor due to my single father. And to all the single fathers out there, keep doing what you're doing. You are appreciated. You are much needed. And if you are a father and you are not in your children's lives, I'm not going to say that you are even more important than their mother, but I'm going to venture out and say that it is probably a much bigger detriment to a child to not have a father in their life than a mother. Because, and I'm just saying that from my perspective, because I know I'm going to hear some backlash on that, but I'm just saying that from my perspective, because I don't know where my sister and I would be if it had not been for my father getting us and taking over at that young and tender age that we were, and taking us to live with him permanently. But I don't feel like I missed anything. Of course, my grandmother was there. She was there until I was about 19 years old, and she passed away. So I did have that feminine, we did have that feminine, presence in our life. And that's something else I can talk about, because our upbringing was a totally different dynamic. Like a lot of people, if they are raised by a single parent, it's usually the single mother. But in my sister and I's case, we were raised by my single father and my grandmother. So we had a slightly different dynamic. We're in our late 30s and early 40s. However, we're pretty calm and still as far as our spirits are concerned. And that came from my grandmother. And we are really stern and calm and no nonsense. And that came from my father. So we have a really good balance, and we're considered old souls. So yes, respect to grandma, respect to dad, especially dad, because this is about dad. Father's Day is coming up. I don't necessarily celebrate it, but when he was here, I took care of him. I gave him whatever he needed, because he deserved that. He really did deserve that for the father that he was. So I want to thank you all for watching.